What is up, everybody, and welcome back to Big Head Chats. And it's a AFL trade and free agency special this week on the podcast. And Melrose joins me. Melrose, welcome to the show, mate. And what are your initial thoughts on what I think's been a pretty crazy fucking trade period?
It's great to get a gig on Big Head Chats. Only the best in the business get on, so I'm honoured to finally get a gig. But no, in regards to the trade period, it was a crazy finish. So I think we're all sort of going through the motions probably up until like 3 o'clock this afternoon, and then it sort of really ramped up. So yeah, I mean, it was a big finish, a few unexpected deals as well, a few stitch-ups in there. I don't know, if I was a Collingwood supporter right now, I'd be hating my life. But
I was gonna say and wait and see how long it took for us to get to Collingwood, but we may as well go there straight away because it's hard to keep this in a professional manner. But Collingwood have had an all-time fuck up in this off-season period, and my only excuse for them is that they must have some serious salary cap issues that they need to fix, and they just had to get rid of these guys for basically no return.
Exactly. Like it's sort of like they just had to get them out the door. As Kane Corn said, it was like it was a garage sale. So effectively, it was like they were moving house and they couldn't take all the furniture, so just sell it.
Oh yeah, it's unbelievable, and we're gonna dive into especially some of those trades because they are some of the bigger trades of the trade period. So we'll dive into them a little bit later, but sort of first came off the rank, Melrose. There's been a lot of movement, obviously some from a lot earlier in the period and in the off season. But what are your three biggest signings or trades from this period?
I mean, like, do you mean instant impact next season or like just overall?
Grade it however you like it in terms of, impact on the field. Maybe it was a sweet deal. They got sort of didn't pay much for what they got. Just however you want to frame it, man. I'm happy with whatever.
Well, I think the Treloar one's massive. Obviously, that came through really late in the last minute or so, I think I read. But yeah, I mean, he's going to come in and make an instant impact to an already stacked Bulldogs midfield. So that one stands out for me. And also the fact that the Dogs gave pretty much nothing up to get him. So it was like pick 14 was a future.
So
second round. Yeah.
I'll give you the. This is fucked. Adam Treloar, 26, 33, and 42 from Collingwood to the Dogs, and for pick 14 and a future second. So basically what it was the Bulldogs needed those stack of picks for the bid for their first pick next year. So yeah, that I think that's the proof there that Collingwood needed to get rid of blokes, especially guys like Treloar who are on a fair bit of money.
Well, obviously, yeah, like they're going to lose those picks to get obviously Hugo Hagan. I think that's how you say it.
Yeah, Hugo Hagan. That's what I was thinking of. Sorry.
So yeah, no, he's going to obviously likely be the number one pick, or whoever bids on him is they expect it to come in the top three. So the Bulldogs will match that, and they need those picks. So they probably won't keep any of those picks. But yeah, the fact that you can get Treloar in plus the picks to be able to match the bid, like crazy.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. We'll go. So let's stick on the Collingwood train because we may as well just get that out of the way, and then we can leave the Collingwood fans be and let them cry themselves to sleep tonight. So, Jaden Stevenson and Atu and pick 39 from Collingwood to North for pick 26, 33, and a future fourth rounder. So,
look, I mean, I was watching the afternoon unfold. I guess the evening as well, and it was almost like it was just going from bad to worse from Collingwood. So it started off with the Stevenson and I'm not even going to try and say his last name, but the R2 trade. But pretty much nothing. It was pretty much a packet of chips. So yeah, I don't know what they traded in the end, but it was not much.
So we were talking before we came on the show tonight about why was R2 chucked in there. I'm not sure why.
Yeah. Hang on. I've just got it up here now. So, 26, 33 and a future fourth for 39, R2 and Stevenson.
Yeah.
I mean, with Stevenson and pick 39, you're sort of going, yeah, okay. Like, he had a pretty average season, but it was only his second year in the league, and his first year was crazy. So,
Yeah.
I mean, to me, regardless, it's just a bad trade. And as we said, it's like it was a garage sale and it was just furniture they didn't want. So
it's putting it nicely, I think. And you only got to look as far as Collingwood Twitter at the moment. It is exploding. So a few people that we know, especially a couple of people from uni, who rightly so have voiced their displeasure because while he hasn't had the year that everyone expected him to have in 2020, as I've said all year, you got to take everyone's form with a grain of salt because the hub life is just not for everyone. So while it might suit, people at Richmond or Geelong and these teams that, are experienced, it might not suit guys like Jaden Stevenson. I know it didn't suit guys like Brodie Grundy who have a career and stuff outside of football and things to worry about outside of football, and they like to get away from football when they leave the club. To be in the hub meant that they were around it 24/7. So obviously guys like that didn't suit the hub lifestyle, and their form showed that. So I think Stevenson and his management have talked about it during this season that he did struggle in the hub. So I think you got to take his form with a grain of salt. But so you're shipping him away for absolute donuts, and he's your best young player.
Yeah, I mean, obviously his first season, 38 goals. He was arguably the best first-year player, 2019. So, yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure he did say that if they're reading into his form from this year as what sort of player he is, that's on them.
Yeah, it's spot on. And the whole story coming out about Bucks and how they've dealt with it. So Stevenson was on Bob and Andy's show on SEN this afternoon, and he said, I didn't hear anything from the club for about a week or so, so I thought I'd get on the front foot and call Bucks and say, hey, mate, is this true? And he pretty much just said to look for a trade and they'll facilitate it. And the key word missing there is he said to aggressively look for a trade and they would facilitate it. So, I mean, it's taken, a week and a bit for Stevenson to call Bucks because there's no contact. Does that tell you something about sort of the culture and how things are run?
I mean, I wouldn't say that. I don't know. I'd say there's more to it. But I mean, yeah. If I'm in Stevenson's shoes, I want to get out as soon as I can because if you're pretty much being told to aggressively look for a trade, we don't want you. So if it's me, I'm out as quick as I can.
I mean, it is a business and it's a pretty harsh one at that, but I'd expect a phone call or a text because when the rumors come out, they come out hard and they spread like wildfire that, you're on the chopping block. So you would want to call just to clear things up. So then if it is happening, at least you know. But as I was saying, so the Collingwood fans are really annoyed, and housemate Jerv, Collingwood fan, who showed me some Collingwood fan groups that he's in, and they've gained no fans from this, and their current ones are pissed off. I think, what do you think about, so culture, I reckon, in footy has so much to do with on-field performance, and it's obviously a massive part of it. Richmond have proved that. How much does this dent Collingwood's culture and then therefore affect their on-field next year?
I mean, you look at Collingwood right now, and going into last year, 2020, they were, in my opinion, a top 5 side, and probably the same with most people. But you look at them now, and it's hard to see them finishing in the top 6. I've got them right now, sort of anywhere from, I said to you 6 to 10 earlier, but I mean now you'd almost say 6 to 12. Who knows what they'll pitch up next year? Just because, the culture seems like it's just taken a whack.
It has, and
for such a proud club as well. It's if I'm a Collingwood supporter, I'd be furious.
You only got to look far as back as round 1, 2020, and the Magpies embarrassed the Bulldogs and played in a way that you thought they've clicked here. Everyone's gelling together at the right time. The young guys are at a point now where they can sort of really start to take over, and Pendlebury and everyone doing their usual thing. And then it sort of came crashing down in round 2 after the comeback from lockdown and had a draw with Richmond and was really low scoring. And then those struggles to score really continued on through the year. And then it's just continued in the off-season and they've completely fallen apart. And I think the culture is going to take a huge whack, and then they lose Tom Phillips to Hawthorn for pick 65. What the fuck?
Yeah. I mean,
that's my only reaction is, what in the fuck is going on?
True. I feel like for me, I wasn't really sort of like shocked because it's Hawthorn. So Hawthorn give up nothing for everyone. They just seem to get everyone through the door. So besides O'Meara, they've pretty much traded like a packet of chips for every player they brought in. So yeah, absolute steal. But another one, you sort of go like, it started with the Stevenson deal, then Phillips, and then when the last minute they offload Treloar, and you're going, oh, there would have been something good back surely, and they've sort of just trucked off, everything. Yeah, everything in their draft hand is just gone.
So we had a message from one of our Pine followers, one of your mates, who said that they've basically, when you look at it in its entirety, they've gotten rid of Phillips, Treloar, and Stevenson for pick 14. Is that basically it?
Pretty much in the future second round, but like going into next year, yeah, it's not great. If I'm Collingwood, I'm looking at what are we going to get in the near future? Nothing. Yep. You just offload 3 players. So pretty much what they've done, as I said, it's basically the garage sale. They've just offloaded players to free up space.
It's going to be interesting to see what they say in the next few days, because I'm assuming there's going to have to be some comments made from Collingwood officials to sort of almost clear the air, because there's definitely some fans that want answers, and I'm probably assuming there's some players on their list that want some answers too, because when you lose 3 of your starting 22, starting 18, you'd even say as well, in one off season for basically nothing in return, there'd be some players on the list wondering what the hell is going on.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like I'm looking at it again, it's just like they got nothing.
They got nothing.
Just literally got nothing. Like you get pick 14, which is going to become like pick 18. So
yeah, and
even then, like I don't know, for the amount of talent they lost, like Stevenson, Phillips, Treloar, even R2, like a ton of potential. He only played a couple of games, I think, but so
we both liked him.
Oh, everyone liked him. Honestly, like he came in and made an impact. And we've seen, I can't remember what year it was, but Phillips had a very good year.
That 2018 year, I reckon, the same year as Stevenson in his first year.
It was a breakout year, yeah.
Breakout year, and that's obviously that year they made the grand final and should have beaten West Coast, really. And then to think that 2 years later he's out the door.
And the whole Treloar thing's just sort of weird, in my opinion. Like, he pretty much, everyone's saying, "Oh, no, you're moving out with your wife to Queensland," and he was like, "No, I'm staying at Collingwood. Collingwood's where I want to be. I love this club." Next thing you know, he's gone.
So let's take a trip down memory lane really quick. So the rumours, well, not the rumours, but the news comes out that his wife has signed for the Queensland Firebirds. That's off the top of my head. In the Super Netball, and then the rumours come out, oh, okay, is he going to go and live with his wife there during their season? Obviously, the seasons clash for a large portion. And then he's adamant that night on 360 that he's not going anywhere and he's contracted, and they've worked it out as a family and, as you do. And then it's 2 days later, Collingwood is saying, "Nah, we want you out now." It's an amazing storyline. Like, it went from something that I thought, why are we even talking about this when the news broke that his wife had signed in Queensland, to all of a sudden, okay, he's definitely going.
Yeah, I looked at it and I was like, look, it's either Collingwood or he goes to one of the Queensland sides. And obviously Brisbane straight away said, no, we can't afford him. And Gold Coast were like, oh, the door's open. But he quickly shut it down saying, no, I'm staying at Collingwood. And then obviously the interest from the Suns dried out. And then Collingwood were pretty much like, we don't want you. So it was a weird sort of situation because it all unfolded like within, I don't know, a week or two, that he went from, I love this club, to, no, you're out.
Amazing turn of events. And yeah, I think my closing statement from Collingwood is that it's going to dent their culture badly, and I think it's going to affect their on-field performance badly. And I think as soon as their performance starts to dwindle next year, the fan I don't know, hatred and is going to drop quickly, and they're going to want some answers on what went down this offseason. So crazy for Collingwood. Who are the other ones that you liked? Who had the biggest impact on the trade period? Give us two other two other player movements that you liked.
Well, I'll stick to trades first. Jesse Hogan going to GWS for a 3rd-round pick. Obviously, it's a bit of a gamble, but they've given up pretty much nothing. And obviously, Hogan, we know how good he can be if he gets himself right. So the fact they've lost Cameron, they've got the pieces to rebuild that forward line, obviously with Himmelberg, Finlayson, is it Riccardi?
Yes,
Riccardi, and then Hogan as well. So they're saying there's some rumours that Hogan may go into defence.
I did hear that.
I see with Phil Davis, I think he's 29 now, so getting on a bit. So yeah, regardless, he's got the potential. I know as a junior, Hogan was a gun defender. So
I love how everyone made a big fuss about how they giving him up for nothing and whatever, as if thinking that he's still the Jesse Hogan that we remember from Melbourne. He's worth a 3rd-round pick now. So they got the compensation back that they would have expected. And so I'm not sure what the big fuss was about in terms of the pick back, because he is a shadow of what he was at Melbourne, and the pick reflects that. And it's a gamble, as everyone said. It's a gamble for the Giants to take him on. Yeah,
it's a gamble, but at the same time, it's sort of, I mean,
to me,
I feel it's definitely worth taking, but to get him away from WA, because I think that's sort of been a bit of a distraction. Get him to a state like New South Wales where AFL is sort of on the up, but it's not like you'll walk down the street and someone goes, "That's Jesse Hogan." So I think for him, that's a big thing as well.
And I can't imagine there's heaps going on out in Greater Western Sydney, in social stuff. I can't imagine there's.
I don't think he would walk down the street in Sydney and people wouldn't know who he is.
Yeah. So. Which is what some blokes need, and which is why a lot of those, you'd know as a Sydney fan, those key forwards flourish up there, because the scrutiny just isn't quite as high.
Yeah, I mean, you guys like Buddy and stuff, I mean, they still get noticed, but I mean, if someone like a Lance Franklin was to walk down a street in Sydney compared to if he was to walk down Chapel Street, it's a fair difference. So, yeah, I mean, definitely I'm keen to see how Hogan goes, and hopefully for him he can get his career back on track.
What about a last one, Melrose? Give us your 3rd best trade.
I mean, I'll stay away from Collingwood because I'd probably say the Stevenson one has to be in there.
Yeah.
Even the Tom Phillips for 65. I think all the Collingwood deals
just bunching into one
were great. Yeah, besides what Collingwood
for the other team.
Yeah.
There's some good ones.
There are some good ones. I'm having a quick look now. It's hard because there are a few. Yeah, I mean, potentially, as you said, Peter Wright.
Okay, let's go here for a second, because I think a 4th-round pick is disrespectful to Peter Wright, who I know he didn't play at all this year, behind Sam Day and Ben King. Is it Ben? Always getting mixed up which one's playing at which. So behind those two, and he couldn't break in, but when Gold Coast were at their absolute worst and he was their key forward, he provided a lot, and actually took some marks and created contests and kicked goals in a team that it was hard to do those things in. So I think Essendon got a really good one there. Replaced Joe Danaher with another 200 centimetre key forward, younger, who's starved for opportunities, and so he's going to come in, really energetic and really willing to work hard. So I think they got a good one for a 4th-round pick. That's nothing. So I think the Peter Wright deal is a good one.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's probably worth a 4th when you look at last year. This year, the fact that he didn't play at all. So you can't be asking for too much. No. And when he has played, he's been inconsistent, but he's definitely got the potential, as you said.
I'm a bit surprised at Gold Coast, because Sam Day isn't going to be around forever, and he's had injury problems his whole career. So I was surprised that they were so happy to get rid of him for so little. The 4th-round pick is what I think, off his form is what he's worth. But I'm surprised that the Gold Coast was so happy to shop him straight away.
I think with Sam Day probably in there just for the extra experience since Ben King's so raw.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't think Wright really has the same sort of. I know Day hasn't been a star, but Wright's sort of been consistent in his own sense, and probably to me it's probably too top heavy to have those two guys in the same forward line, Wright and King. They're both probably too big.
Yeah.
I think Day's a little bit more versatile.
Yep. If Day goes down though, that's panic stations for Gold Coast.
Yeah, yeah. And then one more I'll give you. This wasn't in the same trade, but effectively Sydney's given up a Lear and got back Hickey in 34.
You like that?
So to me, that's a great
deal.
I like it, yeah. A lot of people have criticised the Swans saying, you're giving up a Lear for nothing, but they use that future second round from Port to send to West Coast in order to get Hickey, and they've also thrown in 34 as well. So as a Sydney supporter, you feel that need of having another, like we needed more rucks. We've been very depleted in the ruck department the last couple of years. So we add Hickey in there. It doesn't really matter how good he is, but it just means we've got someone there to help Callum Sinclair while Naismith's injured. And then you add in pick 34 as well.
Yeah, I think he provides enough short-term help where you can just get through with him. He's not going to be your ruckman in your next premiership side, but he's at least enough to just cover your ass for the next couple of years while you're, either drafting a young ruckman or you look for someone else down the line in trade period. So I do like that for the Swans.
I mean, I've said it all along, like with the Lear, I like him as a player, like would happily have kept him, but at the same time, if he goes, well, yeah, in my opinion, he's not going to make or break a premiership.
I like what you were saying to me the other day. You didn't mind either way because he's one of those guys where, he's dropped 2 or 3 times during the year, but then everyone kicks up a fuss when he is traded. He's obviously not in favour, and he obviously wasn't in good form. So you can't be too angry about losing him when he wasn't playing.
Well, I think, what a lot of people don't realise is his breakout year in 2016 was when there was no 6'6", no 6'6". So he was able to roam that back line with the likes of Ted Richards, Grundy, McVeigh, Smith, Jake Lloyd even. And he could just pretty much be that third man up. And he could just attack the ball out of defence. And I think since then it's really sort of hampered his game to the point now where the last 2 years there's been a few times where he's been in the ruck, he's been forward, he's been down back, he's been dropped. It's sort of like the Swans don't really know what to do with him.
And that's why he's going to probably go to Port Adelaide and play well, and Sydney fans will no doubt say, why are we giving him up? But it's because he's going to a back line where he's got Jonas, Burn-Jones, Cleary, Trent McKenzie, all those guys that are just defenders. There's no run off and help the others. Jonas does it a little bit, but they're lockdown defenders. So Lear's going to have that freedom to just run and intercept and be that sort of, I'm thinking Richmond, Nick Vlauston, Dylan Grimes type, where they can just go and help with a third man up. So that's where he'll look like he's probably playing a lot better. But as he said, he's playing that role that you mentioned from 2016 in his breakout year.
Yeah, and I think he was given the responsibility to play on a number of big forwards, and he's definitely got the size to compete. But I think 1-on-1 is not something that's a strength of his game. Like he's more. He needs to be, as I said, that third guy up, and then Port Adelaide seem to, have that place for him.
All right, Melrose. Winners and losers, and I'm going to throw in a couple of can't decides as well because there's a few teams that are sort of a bit iffy throughout this whole free agency and trade period. So we'll start with the winners. We'll start with the good news. So my winners for the entire period were St Kilda, Carlton, Melbourne, the Bulldogs, and Geelong. I'm assuming you're agreeing with me on those 5.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at it now, you probably have to say pretty much the same. Probably Brisbane as well. Even you throw them in, they get Danaher for pretty much nothing.
Yeah, so we'll discuss them in a second. Brisbane were my can't decides because while they get in Danaher and Cockatoo, you're getting in two blokes with multiple years worth of injuries and ongoing injury concerns with the same injury. So you get them both up and firing, and Brisbane are going to win the premiership next year, but you lose one of them or two of them to injuries, and the deal doesn't look as good, I don't think.
Yeah, no, for sure. I'd even throw Port Adelaide in there almost as well. Pretty much they get Lear and they get Tasia for pretty much, a few draft picks to give up any players. But yeah.
So for St Kilda, get McKernan, Brad Crouch, Jack Higgins. I think that's it. I'm not missing anyone. Lose Nick.
They got McKernan as well.
Yeah, I mentioned him. Yeah. They lose Nick Hines, who I really like, but with getting Jack Higgins in and the way that their forward line shaping up, there's just not a spot for him. So they get that midfield depth that they've needed, getting Brad Crouch in to help Jack Steele. Excuse me. So that no doubt takes them to another level and pushes them into that top four consideration, I think. With their forward line gelling for another year and Dougal Howard and those guys fitting in down back, I think they're in a really good spot to push for the top four now.
Yeah, I think like St Kilda obviously even like the rumours of Frawley, they're trying to get him obviously out of retirement as well. So it seems as though, they've sort of pressed the button and gone, okay, we're going for it now. Like we're not going to have another year of, we're learning and we're going to sort of make the finals. That's our goal. It sort of seems like they want the premiership next year.
Yeah.
Yeah. But they're going to go for it. It's not, make the finals, that's a pass. It's, let's go deep into the finals.
Top four and which I like. And, a club like St Kilda needs to take these sort of plunges into free agency and trades, I think, because overall as a club in its history that, it's not great. So I liked what they're doing. They're on the attack and I like it. Speaking of on the attack, Carlton I'm not going to get you started on Williams. We might talk about him a little bit, but they've paid some serious overs to get a couple of blokes into the club, but it does fill holes for what they're missing. They get Zach Williams in, Adam Sard and Lockie Fogarty from Geelong, who was a nice little addition there who, that sort of came from nowhere a little bit, getting him in, but he's someone that's really going to help them in the midfield and add to that depth with, the ability to play inside and outside, which is something that they've lacked and that they get through Fogarty and Williams, I think. So how'd you grade their little off-season there, Melrose?
Yeah, they've recruited well, but, they've got to put it together. Obviously, Sard's a big addition. Williams is a great addition as well. I like guys like Fogarty as well coming in there. I reckon he's going to be a steal for them.
Absolute steal, I think.
He showed some great signs at Geelong. Obviously, just didn't get an opportunity because of that, massive midfield they've got. I don't know. Like, the hard thing is with a guy like Williams is he's got the talent, but he's had his injuries in the past. And I feel like he's going to be one of those guys where because he's on so much coin, it's going to be each game is going to be assessed real harshly. It's going to be
really
if he doesn't dominate it or play really well, it's going to be okay. That's not worth the money.
So you need a. First off, so he's rumored to have signed for about 900 a year. So my initial thoughts were he's probably worth 500. You're going to have to pay overs to get him out of the club, so you'd probably pay 7. They've ended up paying 9, which is way overs, and everyone's in agreement with that. So what you need to hope, I think, with someone like Williams is that he doesn't read into the media too much and he can block that stuff out, because if you read into it too much and let it, get you down, it's just going to affect his on-field performance more. But if you're able to hold it out and just focus on playing, I think the form will eventually come, but it's a big if there, because not many guys can shut it out. When your name's constantly in the media, it's tough to shut that stuff out, I think.
He's going to be under a ton of pressure. So it's a big test for him, like mentally as well, because he's going to have that in the back of his mind. I have to play well. This club's given me a lot. So I've got to perform. Yep,
absolutely. Melbourne, only the reason I put him in the winners is because they picked up Ben Brown, pick 28 and a future 4th and giving up pick 26 to pick 33 and a future fourth. So, I mean, they're able to get a good pick back and Brown, obviously a key forward, which is what they really need to help Wiedemann. So I think the D's, that puts them in a good spot. I mean, you look at the team on paper, their back line's really settled. Some, two great key backs and some really good attacking half-backers. I mean, their midfield should be a lot better than it is in terms of production. Ed Langdon on the wing as well is really, really good. And now a forward line with two legitimate key forwards and some decent guys around them. So, I mean, there's some pressure on Melbourne next year to definitely be making finals at the absolute minimum.
They've got to play finals. I think they will. They've really lacked that sort of key forward that they can trust. They've tried it with Wiedemann. They've tried it with McDonald. I think Wiedemann's still obviously got a ton of potential, but I think he'll love having Ben Brown down there as well. It just takes the pressure off him as a young player.
I think he's going to be the perfect second option. That's
for sure.
I think his career will flourish as a second option, and Brown obviously helps that, no doubt.
I think the only thing with Brown, though, is he's a sort of player that he loves it on the lead. I know that Melbourne had their troubles with their kicking efficiency in the past. So
I'm glad you mentioned that because
he needs it
here. He needs it in front.
On a plate in front of him, I think. Well, he does, and that's what North couldn't do. And I think you wrote about it during the year when you got a midfield that can't hit the target inside 50. Of course, he's not going to play well. So
yeah, exactly. So
that's the big test for Melbourne. They've got to, and I think they can definitely do it. They've got the potential. They've got the guys there. They've got a pretty strong midfield, but they've got to get it together on game day. And as I said, get it through the midfield and hit targets inside 50.
So I think 2020 they obviously got their fitness under control and really smashed with their fitness in the preseason. Now I reckon it's keep that base and then smash the skills. Just have Clayton Oliver, Jack Viney, Petrarca, Brayshaw just kicking hundreds of footies a day and just under pressure, trying out all these different scenarios because, I mean, it's what needs working. It's what's going to win them games because there are games during the year where it was simply skills that put them behind the 8 ball in these games, and they lost close ones and ended up missing the finals by not much.
Yeah, I mean, they were so close, but in a way, I don't think they deserved it because
you're right.
They've got all these guys and all this talent, and to miss the 8, well, they only let themselves down. I remember that. There was, I think they had to beat Sydney and Fremantle up in Cairns.
Lost both.
GWS and someone else, but they banked in Sydney and Fremantle as wins. Like before it even got there, like, oh no, we'll make the finals now. We're home. Every Melbourne supporter and their dog is, lock them into playing finals. And I'm like, well, you've got to realise this is Melbourne, guys. Like, you've got to remember, like, you don't have a great, recent history of, being consistent. And funnily enough, they lose to Sydney and Fremantle.
Well, it was a pretty Melbourne end of the year, wasn't it? I mean...
Oh, mate, it was the cheese platters were going flying, like the wine and the grapes is being sent off.
The Kathmandu jackets are being ripped off and ripped in half. They were pissed
really
off.
spitting out the brie and sort of looking straight to... I mean, they couldn't get to Hotham either because they couldn't take up there, so... I was stuck in Melbourne, locked inside, and still couldn't make the 8.
Yeah. I love that. Now, the two probably the biggest winners of the trade period in terms of star power were the Bulldogs and Geelong. So Geelong end up getting Jeremy Cameron. They give up 3 first-round picks with a couple of second-round picks, future second-round picks. Throwing back in the deal, back to the Cats. So they get their man and, 3 first-round picks is, I mean, I was always of the, belief they need to get a player back to the Giants to at least give them some on-field help now. But 3 first picks is going to have to do. So they get, the Cats get their man. And with Isaac Smith and Sean Higgins also making their way down there, it's a pretty handy lineup for the Cats next year.
Like, I think it was, I can't remember who said it. Someone said that they're probably not going to be premiership favourites next year, but it is the year. Like next year is their year. They don't win it next year.
Who's going to be premiership favourites going into the year then?
Well, I don't know. They said I think like they were saying Richmond again, obviously.
I mean,
but
I'm as diehard Richmond as you can get, and I don't even think we're premiership favourites against that team.
for sure. But yeah, regardless, like next year this is it, in my opinion. You probably got Dangerfield's probably got a couple of good years left, but your Selwoods and your Hawkins and, those type of guys, to me, this is probably, next year is probably going to be where we see them, have their last good year. I think after that, there's no reason they can't play on, but yeah, they're sort of at that age where, next year's it. And it's the same with, Isaac Smith and Sean Higgins, and, they've brought in these older players. And yeah, if they don't get it right next year, then, it's going to be a difficult future because they don't really have any picks in this draft. And they gave up a couple of future picks as well, I think. So
yeah, so they gave up their 3 first rounders this year and a future 4th, and so now I don't think they're picking until the 50s in this draft to start with.
It's one of those things where it'll be looked back on. If they win the flag, it's a success. But if they don't win the flag, we're always going to be seeing, what they traded out, what they got in, and the result. So, I mean, I hope at Geelong they can get it right. They were so close this year, but they add in these pieces, and suddenly they're a very, very good team.
So I like the Cameron and Higgins signing. They basically get a Gary Ablett replacement who is a bit younger, and it will be an upgrade on the Ablett that we had seen the last couple of years, and Higgins can go into the midfield a bit more and be really effective. The Isaac Smith one I don't quite get though, because I feel like the wings were the 2 positions the Cats had nailed the most this year. They had Mitch Duncan and Sam Menegola. Menegola should have made the All-Australian team, and Duncan had a really good year again. So I'm not sure they're going to put Duncan through the middle because obviously Danger's going to play more midfield time now because Cameron's forward, so they don't have that need to put Danger forward as much anymore. Menegola basically has to play on a wing. So it's interesting what they're going to do.
I mean, you love to have all those options.
You do. It's a great problem to have, but can you put a Mitch Duncan to a half-back or an Isaac Smith to half-back? I don't think you can because I don't think either of them can defend one-on-one. But they're offensive players, and that's fine. But, that's why they're good on the wing because they get forward and are dangerous. But I'm not sure you can trust either of them at half-back, but they're going to have to put them somewhere.
Well, I would say that, Isaac Smith will be a lock to play on the wing. And it'll probably be Menegola on the other wing. But then, I mean, Duncan, whether he goes to half forward or half back, but I would expect Dangerfield to play more time up forward. To me, that's where he's most dangerous, especially now in the sort of latter part of his career. But
really, even with Cameron,
I reckon. Well, he's great in the middle, but he can break a game when he's up forward. We've seen, what he can do when he goes forward. Geelong often they throw him up there when they're in the trenches when they're struggling, and he pulls them out. So
I think Danger's going to play more midfield time now though because the grand final proved that they need him in there, especially when they're struggling. And now that they've got Cameron and the luxury to have 2 key forwards, they're just not going to have to put him forward anymore. So I think he's going to play more midfield time. Yeah,
I mean, obviously with Cameron coming in, you're probably right that you probably will see him up in the middle of the ground a lot more. But then it also means that there's probably a good chance they're going to get on top of more teams more often, which then means that they can put him forward if they want because that's when he's most dangerous there is when they're on top and he's getting the service into the forward 50. Do you think the Cameron and Hawkins dynamic, along with like a Rowan and Dangerfield when he goes down there to rest, suddenly you just don't want it to become too crowded?
No, well, I mean, if you play,
because I think Cameron gets up the ground a bit.
I was going to say, I like Cameron's up the ground. He's a runner, great tank, and then can get back quick and get past his opponent and sort of hurt him on the way back. And that just means Hawkins can just stay deep and be that classic full forward. So I think it'll work. And then it just means that, if Cameron's up the ground, it can sort of be that wheel and go then and just get it forward quickly, which is when Geelong are most dangerous because get it quickly forward to Hawkins. That target's there. Hawkins doesn't have to worry about coming up the ground as much. Then it means that Rowan, Grind, Myers, Higgins are just downhill, hurting the defence on the way back. And that's when the Cats were their most dangerous in 2020. As soon as they got stagnant, was when they struggled. So I think with Cameron getting up the ground and being able to just wheel and go and then, just put it in Hawkins' general direction means that the forward line should be a bit more freer, really. But then footy's never that perfect either. So there's going to be some issues along the way.
That's what I was going to say. Like, it's one of those things where on paper they'd probably be the best team in the league right now, but you've got to be able to put it all together. And, hopefully for them they do. But we've seen a number of times in sport where, teams have just stacked their list with, stars and it just hasn't worked.
So speaking of stacked, the Bulldogs midfield is one of the best midfields I've ever seen.
It's pretty crazy, but it's back to that same thing. It is back to that same thing where they've got to get it right. They've got to find a balance. And, a lot of the time we see that the teams on paper aren't usually the best sides. It's usually the teams that, obviously, you look at Richmond, that on paper they may not have, the most A-grade talent, but it's the system and it's the way they're coached and, the balance they have and the way they play as a group that has got them the success they've achieved.
Well, how many people knew who Liam Baker, Jaden Short, Noah Bolter, all these people were until they became premiership players? I mean, no one knew who they were. So you're right. But so the Doggies now have got Bontempelli, McRae, Dunkley, Treloar, Liberatore, Bailey Smith as pure midfielders. And then you've got, a Lockie Hunter out in the wing as well. Am I missing anyone? That's 7.
Well, you'd say Mitch Wallace, but he seems to be out of the goal square now. He was a mid, as well. Main forward.
Yeah, so, I mean, they've got a serious amount of talent that they can run through there. It's good. It's fun to pick who their starting midfield is going to be. I would probably lean towards Bontempelli, McRae, Treloar starting midfield. And you'd have a Dunkley and a Liberatore sort of roll through there. Keep Bailey Smith forward. Then it also means that you can probably put Bontempelli forward a bit more, having that depth with Dunkley and Liberatore rolling through there. So you've got that depth there where you can probably free up Bontempelli and put him forward and try and get him to hit the scoreboard a bit more as well, which is a nice little thing to have in the back pocket.
I think much like Geelong, it's going to be it's a selection headache.
You'd like to have.
But you want to have it, yeah. I mean, if anyone breaks down, they've got some serious backup there. It's not as if, it's definitely not a thin midfield. So it'll be interesting to see how they set up. I mean, you've also got, they held on to Dunkley as well, so that's another one.
Yeah.
So I think it'll be interesting to see whether anyone else plays like a similar role to like what Wallace has done going forward. So I don't know if any of these midfielders adjust and move into different positions, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see.
And the other two we forgot about there for the Dogs as well. Stephen Martin comes in from the Lions. So I like the get from with Stephen Martins. It wasn't something that I saw coming, but so Tim English, who I really like as well, he's just skinny at the moment and young, so that he's going to mature at his own rate. That's how ruckman works. So you get Stephen Martin in, who's just that, surefire, short-term help that is going to be able to play a lot of games and a lot of game time when he does play and be really effective as well. So that gives, their elite midfield at least first use for the most part. And they also get Mitch Hannon from Melbourne. So he's a nice little half forward who plays a really good role, I think. And he's one of those guys that, like we said with Liam Baker, Jaden Short, who's just going to play a role and play it well, which is all they need. They don't need anything special from him. They just need that sort of Sam Lloyd type who can hit the scoreboard here and there and put some pressure on. And that's all they need, I think.
I think, yeah, I mean, they're definitely one of the winners of the trade period for sure. Yeah, I mean, it's like Geelong on paper. They look great, but it really comes down to if they can put it all together.
All right, let's go to the losers, and we both have the same two. So the Giants and Collingwood have seriously fucked this trade period, like badly.
Collingwood in particular, I'm not going to go back there again, but it's literally was a garage sale. Like, I don't know how you could be so dumb. Like, there's some smart boys and girls running these clubs, and I don't know what was going through their heads today. It was just like offload them all.
They've been in hubs or lockdown for too long, I think. The brains haven't been switched on enough and haven't been rolling, and the off-season's shown it. I mean, the Giants had a serious exodus. So, you lose Williams and Aiden Core as restricted free agents, and then I mean, you get Jesse Hogan as well, who's a nice gamble to take, but there's no sure thing there. You lose Jai Caldwell. Am I missing anyone there? I don't think I am.
The big one for me, though, is Caldwell. I mean, he's probably like 29 is probably like a second round pick is probably fair, but
he was a top 10 pick, and I think he just finished his second year, and they said straight away, we are demanding a top 10 pick. We're not budging on that, which I like because you have no reason to budge on it. I know he says he wants to leave, but he's in his second year, so you have every right to say you are not going anywhere if we don't get the right compensation back for it. And instead, they've given up pick 44 and 74 along with Caldwell and gotten back 29 and a future second. Yeah, what is going on? How have you gone from a top 10 pick to a 29 and a future second?
I think the future second, yeah. Looking at Essendon, though, it is Essendon's pick, isn't it? Like the future second. It's not tied to anyone else.
Pretty sure it's just Essendon's, yeah.
So, look, I can't see Essendon finishing top 10 next season. So it's going to be around the sort of 25, or you'd say anywhere from, I don't think they'll be on the bottom of the ladder, but it'll be sort of that 20 to 27 range, I think. So, yeah. I mean, pretty much it's effectively two sort of mid-second round picks.
Mm-hmm.
Which is probably about right. But if Caldwell becomes a player that GWS think he's going to become and the rest of the competition thinks he's going to become, then you sort of go, well, it should have been.
My whole thing with trade period is, especially with someone like a Caldwell, you have no reason to fold there, Giants. Like, there's no reason for you. You just say flat out, and they did say, they said, we want top 10 pick, and that's the absolute minimum. And why would you fold on it? There's just no reason to you say to Syndicate, to Essendon, sorry, this is what you're giving us, or there's no deal. So I'm not sure. I know they get an extra pick, and it's going to be a better one because Essendon, probably won't be very good next year. But it's not great when you're losing players like Aiden Core and Zach Williams, and even Zach Langdon to West Coast too. I didn't mind
as well. Third
round pick. And then so the Giants are in a tough spot. Got some picks, but I mean for the on field next year, the talent pool that they had to begin their existence, and then in the following years, is getting skinnier by the year.
Yeah, it's interesting. A lot of people are sort of speculating how good will they be next year, especially after this year. They went from a grand final where they got smashed, obviously missing the finals this year, and it's almost one of those things where people have compared them to Port Adelaide when they got smashed by Geelong in 2007. It's sort of like a loss like that can just take the soul out of a club, and you hope for the Giants that that's not the case, but. Unless they improve next year, you sort of start to ask the question.
Well, you saw it with Adelaide too in 2017.
Yeah,
their response in 2018 and 19 was very similar to the Giants in terms of, around the mark, but just not quite there finals wise. And then all of a sudden it gets to this year and they're where Adelaide ended up. So, I mean, I don't see the Giants folding as much as Adelaide did, but there's a very strong chance that I don't see them playing finals next year. I just don't.
It's hard to know where to put them. You look at it. I mean, for me, when I did my report card on them, I had them sort of 5 to 10. But you don't know. It's a real sort of testament to their culture. The fact that a number of players have wanted out. And the fact they lose Cameron, it changes the whole forward dynamic. So it'll be interesting to see how they set up, whether it's Hogan becomes the key target or they sort of go with that hybrid sort of Himmelberg, Finlayson, Riccardi, and even throw Hogan back in there as well.
Yeah, I mean, they do have the stock up forward to, with the right system, be able to, fill the Cameron void. So, but that's probably been their biggest issue, especially this year, was their system wasn't good enough. So, that'll be a fun team to watch. I see a world where they don't play finals, but we'll have to wait and see. But Melrose, it's been This has been one of the most entertaining trade periods in my memory, for sure. There's never been so many times where like a player's been. I've never seen so much in the AFL a player be told we are going to trade you just because we want to. That doesn't happen as much in the, you see it in the NBA and NFL all the time, but it doesn't seem to happen as much in the AFL. And so when it happens like this, especially with sort of Stevenson and Treloar, it's weird. It's odd.
I like it though.
Yeah, I mean, it makes for entertaining viewing for us, for sure. But it's it's definitely different to what we're used to.
I like it, but yeah, as you said, like it's probably not great for a guy like Stevenson who wants to be at a club and then is told to aggressively look for a new home. You sort of, you've just played 2 years of footy, like you haven't been around a while, and but no, it was a big finish, so we love that. Love them all rushing at the end. That's what we like to see. Keeps us entertained and mixes it up a bit.
It does. And now we get to look forward to much of the same happening in the NBA in a couple of weeks' time. So might do something similar to this little pod here, Melrose, I reckon, for the NBA, because I'm sure there's going to be just as much fun information and fun player movement in the NBA as there was in the AFL. So, mate, thanks for joining us tonight to discuss all the movement. It's been good fun, and we shall talk to you soon. Hopefully, when On the Pine Pod is back and going, because that's the next plan in the works, isn't it?
Yeah, hopefully On the Pine comes back in the next couple of weeks. But always an honour to jump on Big Head Chats.
Only the finest, mate. Only the finest are invited on. So thanks for joining us, mate. We'll chat soon.
No worries. Cheers, mate.